All right, guys, we are working away here again at Project Frankenstroke. Now that we've got an engine in here and one that runs, that we're able to make it run, I'm ready to start moving on to a different phase of things, which is kind of tying up little loose ends and odds and ends on this truck. The next goal in mind to be for it to move under its own power. So I'd like to be able to start it up and move it, get it in and out of the garage here under its own power so I don't have to drag it around with the skid loader anymore. And I've done a couple of things. So you saw my list before. I've got a new list here. This is all the little things that I can think of that I want to do to this thing before I'll consider it ready. And I've kind of prioritized, didn't really prioritize the list physically, but I've kind of prioritized some tasks in my mind to get it to the point where it'll move under its own power. So here today we've accomplished a couple little things. There's one that I'm still working on here. First of all, I was able to get the clutch cylinder, the clutch slave cylinder, pushed back in. It was kind of stuck in the out position. And what I did to free that up was I took a large C-clamp and I popped the cap off of the end, and then I pulled the boot and the push rod out of the slave cylinder and used the C-clamp to depress the internal cylinder on that slave. So as soon as I did that, it was freed up, it moved freely. I was able to push it in by hand and snap it back into place. So let's see if you can see it in here. Not really. Maybe. Not really. You'll have to take my word for it, but it's in place. That's taken care of. Next thing on my priority list, I've got a little bit of time here to tinker today. These power steering lines. Now, I was just going to swap this out. This is the issue. A spot there where it rubbed on something. I have no idea what. But it rubbed all the way through, so it was leaking right there. And I went down and grabbed another power steering line out of the shed, only to realize that the ends are different. This is a straight flare fitting, and this is that, I don't know, what is that, a bubble flare? It's not a bubble flare. I don't know what you call that end, but it's not the same. And this is what I need to go into the steering box. This is a different steering box than all the others that I've got down there. This is a 4-bolt box. Everything else I've got is 2. So all of the lines that I've got are like this, and it's not going to work. So I could order a new line. I could spend, I don't know what it is, $30, I'm guessing, on that new line, or I can make do with what I've got, and that's what I've chosen to do. So what I did here is I cut out the bad section of that line. Okay, that was the one that was bad, it was leaking. It was on this piece, and then I took another one that I've got here and I just sacrificed it, and I cut out a good section. And what I'll do is we'll fasten these together then. And the way we'll do that is I've got a bunch of old brass fittings here. I don't remember if I got these at an auction or what, but I've got bunches and bunches of this kinds of stuff. So it just appears to be 3/8 line. So I've got a 3/8 compression here. We will put this thing together with that 3/8 compression. Now this is the return line, not the pressure line. So I don't need to be concerned about it popping this compression apart or anything like that. If I was concerned about that, the best way to do that would be then to flare the fittings and to use a threaded union. You know, basically use a brake flaring kit and to do it that way. So this way, we can just put it together with these compression connections. Again, this is low pressure or no pressure That's the return line. It's going through rubber hose back to the reservoir. So this should be able to put it together. Let's see if we can get that part bolted back into the truck and move on to the next little thing. I think one of the next things is going to be pulling the carpet and the seats out. I've got to gain access to the floor pan so that I can take the blank off for the four-wheel drive shifter. There's just a tin cover that's screwed to the floor right in here. We'll take that off so that we can push the 4x4 shifter up through, and then we've got to cut a hole in the trans cover there for the shifter on the ZF5. So that's going to be about the next thing, just to pull this interior out and start working on the floor pan. But I'm going to finish up this power steering fluid cooler return line. We'll do that first, and then we'll move on to the next thing. All right, well, power steering cooler line is back on. That's all taken care of. Got the seats out, about ready to pull the carpet out. So I'm going to give away my secret here. I'm going to show you how I make all my money on these trucks. It's in the stuff that I find under the seats. I already collected about a Big Mac's worth of pocket change. I don't know what we had going on here. It looks like someone ate a sparrow inside here or something. That's kind of gross. But, oh yeah, some good long black zip ties. A couple of cheap Chinese screwdrivers. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's like a magnetic tip one. Oh, that's fancy. Look at this thing. That's the big boy. That's the 4-cell. And it works. That's going to be the entire profit margin on this project. Right there. Yep. Feast your eyes, boys. Pair of slip joint pliers. Drill bit. I'm not sure I understand a 1/2-inch drill with that teeny tiny little shank on it. Looks like maybe that's been machined in a drill. That's what happens when you don't tighten the chuck. Got a hitch pin, vanity license plate. If and you're ever in a junkyard and you come across one of these, you'd be wise to pick it up. These are not easy to come by. That's the cup holder that snaps on the front of the bench seat onto those two little guys. So I was careful to take that off before I pulled the seat out so I wouldn't break it. Those are not easy to come by. But the seats are out anyway. It's all in fun and games here, guys. But seats came out okay. Got the seat belts out as well. Sometimes those can be a real booger. But this not being an Ohio truck certainly helps in that regard. So I think the next thing is going to be to pull this carpet back. You know, I got to pull up these sill plates yet, and some of the trim to get the carpet loose. But we'll get the carpet stripped out of here, get it cleaned up a little bit. Probably going to pressure wash the living daylights out of it, try and get it as clean as possible. And then we'll have to let it dry for about 27 weeks. That jute backing, if you get the backing wet, it just takes forever to dry out. So I might have to drag it inside, stash it down in the basement someplace where it's a little warmer and it'll dry up. But making progress anyway. That's it for now. I'm going to hide this. All right, progress. Got the carpet out. There's some rust going on here. I'm not sure what that was all about. It looks like something was spilled. It must have been held under the carpet there, or it's allowed to get a lot of rain or something inside of it. But it's still solid. It's definitely functional. Carpet is out. Just a word of advice: if you've ever got a lot of work to do underneath the dash, especially if you're of a little bit larger frame, shall we say, and getting under the dash isn't real convenient for you, pull the seat out. Pull the front seat out, regardless of which of the stock seat arrangements that you've got in here. If you've got the stock adjustable rails and pan underneath it, it's only 4 bolts. Now there's 2 bolts that go through at the front and then 2 nuts here at the back, and the whole thing lifts out. Now I've got obviously the seat belts out as well. Sometimes those can be a booger, but it is possible to remove the seat and leave the seat belts. So if you've got pedal bushings or something like that to do, pedal box bushings on a manual truck, sometimes taking the time to pull the seat out will save you more than the time that it costs you, just in terms of the headaches that you'll save yourself. So while we've got the seat out here, we'll go ahead and get rid of this automatic transmission shift cable. I'll probably go ahead and route the wiring for the TS 6-position chip that this truck has in it. I'm definitely going to go ahead and finish up the connections for the clutch pedal. We'll go ahead and connect the clutch safety switch as well while we're under there. And then of course we can remove these 2 seat pans or floor pans and be ready to bolt in our shifters. So if you've never had the carpet out, those 4 bolts and a pry bar, 4 screws and a pry bar. Take that cover out so that you can allow the transfer case shifter to come up through for 4x4. And then, I don't know, what are there, 10 or so bolts that take that transmission cover off completely. And I think we'll probably just measure off of one of my other trucks here and cut our opening in here for the shifter. Also of note, if you ever have to do that, it's a good time to change the fluid in your transmission, because you can pull the bolts out of the top, take the shift tower off, and dump all of your fluid in from the top instead of having to fill through the side of the transmission with a pump, or however it is that you go about doing that. So just a couple little tips. I try to do things at the time when they are most logical and easiest to get to. I don't know, we may actually just pressure wash this thing out. It's got a bunch of sticky garbage on the floor here, like somebody spilled a big gulp or something, and it's just all sticky and gross. So I probably am going to end up having to wash both sides of that carpet. I just took a little bit of time and vacuumed the big chunks off of it before we took it out. Got most of the dead bird carcass off first. So I got that cleaned up a little bit and then just pulled it out, fully understanding that pressure washer and a scrub brush and a couple hours worth of time is going to be invested on it anyway. So it's out, seats are out. Now we can get inside here and button up some details. Making progress. All right, guys, welcome back to Project Frankenstroke. I think we are about ready to back this thing out of the garage. This will be the first time in the time that I have owned this truck that it has moved under its own power. I've got the wiring taken care of so that it starts with the key. I've got the transmission drained and refilled with fresh fluid, as well as the transfer case. Those have both got fresh fluids. We've got fresh fluids in the front differential. We've got the front brakes bled. I've got a shifter bolted loosely in place. And I think we're ready to move this thing. I've got a friend that is stopping by this afternoon. We're going to work on his Jeep for a little while. So I need to use the garage. And I think this thing's ready to move on its own. Still a lot to do. Clearly we've got some suspension things to tie up with both front and rear sway bars. I've got rear shocks that need to be installed. I still got to do a lot to the interior. We've got the whole process of converting the flatbed from the frame spacing for a cabin chassis to a pickup frame like this is. We've got the flatbed to go on here yet. There's a lot left to do. Exhaust, just a lot. But if we can make this thing move under its own power, that'll be a real victory. So what do you say? Let's give this guy a shot and see if he will go. Let's see if we can get it to start. I did throw the seat back in here and bolt it down just so I've got something to sit on. Got an ABS light that's not real happy here either. So we'll have to look into that. Let's make sure I don't mash the switch for this chip. I've also discovered that I don't think there's a single one of the power windows in here that works. Here we go. What do you think? Well, it starts. I'm having some trouble with this clutch. I may end up replacing this master-slave set. Oh, it went into gear. Got a brake pedal. Not much in the way of power steering, but it does move. Here we go. Alright, well, add to the list of things that need to be done. I need to put a handle on the driver's side door. I had to crawl across to get out. What do you think? Just a little bit of belt chirp. But it's alive. Just a little bit of smoke. that could be from a lot of things. One of the things that could be from is changing the glow plugs. Sometimes when you do that, you get a little bit of oil down into the combustion cylinders, so it's not uncommon to have a little bit of smoke after that. Or it could just be because there's 370 some odd thousand miles on that engine. So once again, much more to be done on this project before we're ready to send it down the road with somebody. But it's come a long way from when it was sitting right here with no front axle under it, and no engine, and no transmission, and now it moves under its own power. So much more to be done. Probably the first thing that I need to do is to finish the installation of the rear drive shaft. We were driving a front wheel drive here. But I've got a drive shaft that goes in it. I just need to build a spacer for the mounting location for the carrier bearing. This was a two-wheel drive truck before, and since we added 4 inches of lift in the back, that carrier bearing needs to be a little bit higher. It looks to me like on a 4-wheel drive crew cab pickup, the carrier bearing mount is 3¼ inches tall, and I've got to add about an inch, a little over an inch, to the one that's in here. It's about 2 inches tall now, so I've got to figure something out for that. We'll just fabricate a block that goes in underneath the mount there, brings that down into line with where it needs to be. But that's a lot of progress. If you want to see the rest of this project, obviously there's a playlist for this. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. Working on these OBS trucks is something that I enjoy very much. It's something that I'm kind of addicted to here somehow. But feel free to like and comment on the video. And if you'd give us a subscribe, we would greatly appreciate it. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.